Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this Henderson County Board of Education regular meeting. Today is March the 19th, 2018, and we could please have a moment of silence. There's lots of people that need some special thoughts in this country in the last couple of weeks. Thank you, everyone. We have a new DPP, Ms. Casey Farmer. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, before we approve the agenda, we do need to move one item on here so we can get it approved. We need to move section number 6, reports. Number 2, the guaranteed energy savings contract. Mr. Ernie is on his way, but he will be running a little bit late. So, ladies and gentlemen of the board, if we could move that item to following the consent agenda under new business, would that work for everyone?
Motion we accept the agenda as presented, moving item number 6, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Ms. Tracy. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, moving on to student and staff recognition. Ms. Margan.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone who is here. We have several student and staff recognitions. I'm going to start with March's Judges Scholar. This is a 5th grade student from Niagara Elementary School, Camden Henshaw. Is Camden Henshaw here tonight? Okay, come on forward, please. I also asked that Miss Onan come and join us. I actually met Camden up at Physical Court the day they were finishing up. We kind of ran into each other, and so I had the pleasure to meet him, Miss Onan, and he was a very polite, you can tell, very astute young man. But tell us all why you chose Camden to be our Judges Scholar.
Well, there's many reasons why we chose Camden. He's a great representative of Niagara. He's also in charge of our flags each day, along with another group of boys, and he shows great respect to our flag. He's also a leader, good grades, straight A's, attendance is great, and just an all-around great representative of Niagara. He's been there since kindergarten and is ready to graduate 5th grade and move on to South.
Congratulations. We want to award you with the Medal of Excellence this evening for your leadership in Henderson County Schools. You're welcome. Now, also introduce, you have some special guests with you tonight. Who did you bring with you?
My mom, and then my grandma, my uncle, my aunt, and my cousin.
Fabulous. Would you all stand and get a round of applause also? What a great support system family you have. Congratulations. Can we get a picture? Congratulations. We're very proud of your leadership. Next, we would like to recognize two folks. I'm going to go off script just a tad. And there are two folks at the Henderson County High School that I'd like to do a shout out tonight. That is Mr. Chad Thompson. Would you please stand? And Mr. Jeff Corsi. Both of you gentlemen would come forward for just a second. The reason I just like to spotlight these two gentlemen is because we hosted district tournament and regional tournament the last couple weeks. And I know you had a ton of volunteers help you and a ton of staff members help you, but that is a huge undertaking. It represented Henderson County very well, and it brought people from all western Kentucky into our community, into our Colonel Gym, and showed them our Colonel Pride and Colonel Way. And I just want to tell you how pleased and how proud I am that that went flawless, and thank you for the work that you do to pull that off. Appreciate it. Absolutely. I think Mr. Thompson also has some pretty cool news that just kind of came in today off beat. And
I do actually. This weekend, as most of you may or may not be aware, hopefully you are aware, last year Henderson County High School won the State Governor's Cup academic meet at the state level, and it is this weekend every single year. And they left on Friday morning, and they've competed all weekend long. And just in the last hour, hot off the press, our quick recall team finished third in the state of Kentucky. In mathematics, Zach Bikeman finished in a tie for sixth. In science, Zach Bikeman also finished sixth in the state of Kentucky. In social studies, DJ Banks finished seventh. In language arts, Harrison Jenkins finished first with a perfect score of 50. Composition, go ahead. That's language arts. He's got my hand. I will tell you right now. Composition, Andrew Sauls finished first in the state of Kentucky. And overall, with a total amassed points of 43.5, Henderson County High School finished second, unfortunately, this year in the Kentucky State Governor's Cup.
thank you so much for sharing. We'll have to get the students in here maybe in our April meeting to give them a Medal of Excellence as well. I also would like to recognize a young lady. I don't see her today. If she's not here, is Julianne Latimer here tonight? Let me share with you why we asked her to come this evening. Math Counts is a competition put on each year by the Professional Society of Engineers. It's a nationwide mathematic competition. Each state is grouped into specific chapters. South is part of the Green River chapter. Today's chapter competition had 70 different students competitive from surrounding school districts. Our team placed second overall from South Middle School, and they will go on to advance to the state level of competition, which is at UK in Lexington on March 24th. I bet they're on the study. But that's why she's not here tonight. Julianne Lattimore, a student at South Middle School, finished first overall individually, former Niagara student. She won a $5,000 a year scholarship to Kentucky Wesleyan College as a middle school student, a $1,000 scholarship to Western Kentucky University, and a $500 math count scholarship to the school of her choice, but a full tuition scholarship to the University of Kentucky for 4 years. Want to get her back in here. She had some team members also, and her team members were Jesse Latimer. He placed 36th overall. Kendall Pullum placed 16th. Lexi Vaughn placed 12th overall, but Julianne placed first. Pretty awesome as a middle school student at Henderson County South Middle School. Awesome. All right, and last we want to recognize, we like to say at times, we like to get a little big for our britches sometimes and say we're either going to go big or we're going to go home. South Middle School repeatedly seems to come up with going big when they go to state. And their dance team, led by Carrie Boland and Jill Goldsberry, came home with state championship in their dance in hip hop and second place in pom category. So if I could have those two coaches come forward and introduce each student. Absolutely. Congratulations, ladies. We appreciate, first of all, to the coaches and to Mr. Rush, if he were here, the time and dedication that you give to this team, to the kids, the opportunities that you provide them to excel. And I know that it's very competitive and that you expect excellence from them. So we have a medal of excellence for each dancer. And if you will call them out by name, bring them up, we'll get their medals on them.
Start with Emma Alves, 8th grader. Abby Roy. Kennedy Phillips. Malin Turner. Kaylin Johnson. Kylie Gibbons. Okay. Addie Clark. Sydney Warren. Riley Lett. Morgan Carter. Kiki Marshall. And I think we're ready for 6th grade. No, we're not. Emma Tanaka. I can't see you. And then we have Miley Griffin. Selena Smith. Ava Denton. Taylor Thompson. I swear I know all their names, I just can't see them, and I'm scared I'm going to forget their names. And then we have 1 sick, Levy Staples. Well, we practice Monday, Wednesday, sometimes Friday, sometimes Saturday. Definitely Saturdays whenever it's November, December, your busiest times. I normally babysit while the parents get to go shopping. We do a lot of practices on Saturday, long practices to where we'll take a lunch break. And they enjoy it. I think those are their favorite practices, yes or no?
Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
We get to eat together. It's the best thing. It's the best part of our day. Get a lot of work done.
If I'm going to have food or cake, they're going to be there. They're really going to be there. The Miss Jill always shows up early. And if these fine ladies have a support system out there, would you all send parent, grandparent, sibling, brother, sister? Let's give these folks a round of applause. And girls, you all need to make sure, I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, you need to make sure that you thank that crew that just stood, because they pick you up, they drop you off, they do all the things, right, they need to help you get there. Let's give these fine ladies another round of applause.
Bye, y'all. Bye. Bye, y'all. Congrats, Billy. Bye. Bye, my friend.
Thank you all very much for coming this evening. We applaud all your efforts. The other three people we need to recognize this evening are our student ambassadors. Melanie Parker, if y'all would please stand. Hope I get this right, Ms. Patel. Pooja Patel, thank you. And Maggie Van Zandt. Thank you all for coming. Moving on to public participation and recognition of guests. Anyone who wishes to speak before the board this evening does need to fill out one of these forms, which is over on the table. Each person gets 3 minutes to speak, and just a reminder that we will not take action on anything brought through public participation. I do have Ms. Tammy Gibson and Sherry McLean listed. Yes. Y'all can come up here to the podium, it would be fine.
I'm Sherry McLean, Tammy Gibson. We're here to present this petition for metal detectors in our schools. They protect our judge and our president. They have them in airports. There's been 23 deaths and 43 injured in 2018 alone. Let's make it 0 deaths and 0 injured here. Let's come together and protect our kids. Teachers don't need to be armed. They're here to teach our kids. Let's protect them also. We could put armed guards running the metal detectors like they do at the courthouse. Do away with the backpacks. They will make it go faster and will lower the percentage of shooting while in the lines. The cost is $1,000 to $5,000. Parents pay $30 a year for Chromebooks, so let's pay $30 to protect our futures. We can also set up charities. Last but not least, they have metal detectors in prison to protect inmates. How are you protecting our kids today? Thank you, guys. Who do we give our petition to?
We appreciate what they brought forward. Later on in our agenda, there is some safety information that Ms. Morgana Stanley is going to present, and part of the information will include some of what you have discussed already. So we appreciate the community bringing information to us. We're always willing to listen to you all. Thank you very much. Moving on to approving the minutes from the prior meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the February 19th regular meeting and also the special meeting for the Henderson County Finance Corporation? Are there any changes or additions to those minutes? Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve the minutes as listed. Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Mr. West. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Minutes approved. Moving on to reports. Capital projects reports. Pottsville update. Mr. John Hagan.
Good evening. I was hoping to come for the second month in a row with a pretty good update, but the last few weeks have been a struggle, to say the least, trying to get the roof on the building. I think you saw my report from last week. The south side of the building is essentially in the dry. There's one connecting corridor that will get the TPO roof starting Thursday for this week. We'll get a second roofing crew coming back to do that. There's two areas of flat roof in the front of the building that will follow. But it's been tough here recently. The brickwork, you can't see it from the road, but on the back side of the building, the rear of the gym is essentially bricked. They're going to finish up top of that wall out and move around the cafeteria side, and then follow up on the two-story classroom wing. The way the windows are detailed, the brick has to be installed before the windows go in. So, good thing is we had about a half an hour conference call today with the window contractor, and all the windows are built. So just as soon as the brick is laid, they will be going in. First load of things expected Monday, if I'm not mistaken, for the gym. Those will be going in next week. Hopefully, my hope is 2 weeks from today we'll start having the insulation going down on the front wing classroom addition. That process should go pretty quickly. That's that cool vent roofing system that we've had that change over. So hopefully we can make up some time there. That's the plan. One good thing that did happen is the geothermal wells resumed, and that crew is out of Ohio. They're working about 11-hour days, and they're averaging between 2 and 3 wells a day, which is excellent. So if they can keep that pace up, they should be off-site the next month. So that's a big step. That'll get everything out front cleared up. We'll be relocating our trailers, starting all the great work that's going to drainage up front between Unit 60 and the new school. So, as far as the schedule goes, we're fighting an uphill battle. We're going to need some serious production over the next few months. We're talking about August. We had a progress meeting today. It was a pretty stern meeting, to say the least, and we're still working towards that goal. We've experienced some delays, but I think everybody's bought into the fact that we're still trying for August. So I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. It's going to be a tough task. Questions on the update before we go into the change orders?
Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? I have a few. I'm just going to see nothing else. John Hagan, I see that you brought us a list of the proposed change orders, most of them regarding PPMI, the credits that we get back, and then moving that over to state electric. I see that. I've matched them all up back and forth. This is a credit, this is a plus to them. What I come up with a difference is $438,000. I guess I need for you to explain to me what that is. Are those for things that they had not started on, quoted? Tell me what those are.
There's a credit and an ad for we're taking the money from the existing PPMI contracts, moving it over to state electric. So there's a deduct and an ad for all of these, with the exception of 3. So there's change order 26-1, 27-1, and 28-1, which do total of 400.
That's the 438. That's correct. Yes.
That is the money that the bonding company is bringing to the table to reimburse the board for the difference in the remaining PPMI contract balances and what the new contractor is charging to complete the work. So this is tracking the money that Hanover Insurance is giving to Henderson County.
There will be a credit coming of $438,000.
The state electric contracts were written for $0, so that we can track, taking it here, adding it here, so these individual ones, you will be receiving a check from Hanover. So these three change orders is that money. There won't be an offsetting. We're not taking that from UPI. That's coming from Hanover. Right. Monica. Is that-
No, but I just want to make sure that everything's coming out even. The whole amount's coming out even is what my
Yes,
question is.
this total, all these are total, no cost to the board.
Okay. Okay, because when I matched them up, I couldn't match, I could match them all up except for three, and that's three total.
So there's three new contracts. We created bid packages for state electric. That's 26, 27, and 28. So that first change order for each 26-1, 27-1, and 28-1 are all those monies that Hanover is bringing to the table.
Okay, okay. One other request that I have, I don't need it today, but if you could either bring it to our next board meeting or forward it to Morgana in your weekly stuff, is if we could get a list of the change orders, pluses and minuses, from the very beginning to where we are now.
I can send that to you tonight, actually.
Okay, so we know a balance sheet, okay, we're this much ahead, this much behind, or are we even? Are we about where we're supposed to be at this point in the game? I know we have contingency funds, but we'd like to stay as close on target as possible.
And I'll add in there the contingency balance as we stand today.
Thank you, I would appreciate that.
Sure. Now, there are two other change orders. One is a credit, $2,900. That's to omit 2 display cases.
Correct, I saw that.
Front lobby. And then there's an add of $9,432. That's for the additional 10 geothermal wells.
Correct. Right. Geothermals, yes.
Why did we update those? I mean, I saw it, but I didn't know
The
why.
display case, there was a conflict. There were 4 originally, so now we're taking 2 away. There was a conflict with some plumbing inside the wall. It's recessed into the masonry wall. So
So
2
we
are,
gotta mess with the.
right.
Okay.
So 2 are going away. We still have 2 trophy cases and 2 display cases.
So, Ms. Beth, can we do one motion to approve all these change orders, if I read them? Individually, okay. Okay, so I'd like a motion to approve the following change orders for BG 15-016 Pottsville Elementary School Project. The numbers are 15-2, 16-2, 22-4, 24-3, 25-2, 26-1, 26-2, 27-1, 27-2, 27-3, 28-1, 28-2, and the 16-3. Oh, we needed that one separately. Okay. So those following change orders. Do I hear a motion to approve that action as listed? Thank you, Ms. Sally. I'll second that. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, and you also have a purchase order for a separate one, which is 16-3.
Correct. One of the change orders, if you scroll back up, is for that same amount. We actually found some material that can be moved to a purchase order. And by doing this, we'll save the board about $5,400. So 27-3 is taking that money off the contract and making creating a purchase order. So 16-3 is actually a purchase order, not a change order.
So do I hear a motion to approve the change order 16-3?
I'll move that, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Anything else, Mr. John Higgins? Keep at it. Thank you. Okay, moving on to, we have a BG 4 for the high school, some miscellaneous repairs with Cindy.
So we just need to get approval for the BG4 for project 17-218 for the office enclosure portion. We won't be able to close it out with BG5 until the tennis floor is complete.
Any questions regarding that action? Hearing none, I look for a motion to approve BG 4 for BG number 17-218, Henderson County High School Facilities Repairs and Replacement Project. Do I hear a motion to that effect? Thank you, and Sally seconded it. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to Henderson County High School Athletic Report, Mr. Jeff.
Good evening. In your report that you should have, it gives our update on our winter sports. We're pretty much done with our winter sports, basketball and dance, cheerleading, swimming, bowling. Archery has their regional. In fact, we're hosting the region, KHSA Region 2, this coming Saturday, 9 a.m. at the archery building. So if you want to come watch some archers, it'll be a great opportunity. So across our region, we've been having a really good archery season. Several first and second place finish, team match finishes, and also several individual award winners as well. Basketball, both teams, had 2 good seasons. They came up a little short in the region tournament, both losing to Christian County in the semifinals. You'll have listed there those athletes, student athletes who made academic all-district on our Lady Colonel basketball team, our Colonel basketball team, also our dance and our cheerleading squads as well. Our dance team competed in the first ever KHSAA dance competition, and they finished 4th place in hip hop and 4th place in pom. And they competed in the national NDA competition, finishing 5th in pom and 6th in hip hop. With that, we're looking for a head cheerleading coach. Our cheerleading coach resigned, and so we're in the process of accepting applications and going to be hopefully hiring a cheerleading coach here within the next month or so. Swimming had another good season. In fact, we had a relay team that qualified for state, and they came up a little bit short. Chase Becker received the Regional Sportsmanship Award within our swimming team. This is an award that is voted on by the regional coaches, and so congratulations to Chase on that. And our first ever bowling team, girls and boys bowling team, the boys team finished the regular season undefeated, came up just a little short, for qualifying for state, but they're looking forward to some great things next year in bowling. Also, as Ms. Stanley said, we hosted our district, 6th district basketball tournament, had an excellent and successful tournament. Also in regional, and there are several folks that helped us out, particularly with parking. As you know, if you've ever been out to high school, parking can be a cluster and a mess sometimes, but appreciate the bass fishing team. They kind of organized all of our parking. The Distinguished Young Women's Scholarship Organization, they handled our ticket booths and did a great job. Our culinary class there at the high school did our hospitality room and did a super job, and even got a shout out on Twitter by Coach John Calipari, who happened to be at the championship game of our regional. There he came to wish me well and those things. No, but I will say this, that Coach Calipari, UK, since Coach Calipari visited Colonel Jim, UK is 5-0. I just want just want to say something there. I don't know what that has, but it is pretty neat, particularly when you get a call and the gentleman on the other line says this is assistant coach Joel Justice from the University of Kentucky, going to be down to watch the regional championship game there in Henderson. What's the best way to come? And also Coach Cal's coming with me. And so after that, I picked up the phone off the floor and I said, "Oh, okay, no problem. We'll be glad to have him. Yeah, it'll be good." But it turned out really well. And in fact, I think it helped our crowd because word got out about 5:30 that he was coming. And we saw a lot of blue come into the gym. So with that, but it was pretty exciting. Appreciate the Sheriff's Department, City Police, State Police, and also John Elliott, Nathan Grace, our Associate Athletic Directors, and also our athletic teams and coaches who manned our concession stand, and then hats off to the Henderson County High School administration for their help in making the tournaments a success, and So, looking forward to our spring sports season. We're supposed to have our first softball game tomorrow. Hopefully that will take place. Our baseball game for tomorrow has been canceled, postponed. We're looking for a makeup date for that. Of course, our tennis teams, track teams, and also our bass fishing team is all gearing up for hopefully a very successful season. All right. Any questions? All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jim. Moving on to gifted and talented, Ms. Joe.
Yes, I didn't know if you knew that was going to be me, but it is.
A little special note here that says, talk to Joe Swanson.
That's right.
I have a good assistant.
In our gifted and talented program in Henderson County Schools, we have, Nicole has prepared a report for you to show you how many students that we work with. 1,243 total gifted and talented and primary talent pool students. 400, that includes 469 high school, 331 middle school, 239 formally identified elementary gifted and talented students, and 183 elementary primary talent pool students. Those would be students in grades K through 3 who have the potential, who are demonstrating the potential, but are not actually formally identified. We serve all of those students with 4 gifted and talented specialists. 1 specialist providing gifted and talented services at 5 elementary schools. The larger number of gifted and talented students have received services in 1 day per school. We have 1 gifted and talented specialist that provides GT services at Henderson County High School half of the time, because the other half of the time he is a SOFA, School of Fine Arts instructor. We have 1 specialist providing gifted and talented services at North Middle School and South Middle School in a gifted and talented elective format. So they are teaching pretty much all day. They have 3 periods at North Middle School and 2 periods at South Middle School. We have 1 gifted and talented specialist serving as a combination teacher and gifted and talented coordinator, providing gifted and talented services at 3 of the elementary schools where we have smaller numbers of GT students, and teaching a gifted and talented elective at South Middle School as well. So you can see we serve a lot of students with 4 people. In the elementary school, our primary talent pool numbers, as I've given it to you, 183. Those are students who perform exceptionally high levels and demonstrate the potential for being gifted and talented. They are identified at the end of their 3rd grade year to go into gifted and talented formally identified services beginning in the 4th grade year and then they're on. Students are placed in gifted and talented strand classrooms in Henderson County elementary schools to receive differentiated instruction within their regular classroom as well. That is a model that is promoted by the Gifted and Talented Studies at Western Kentucky University. And last year when I was able to attend a meeting and a workshop on that, Henderson County was one of the few districts in the state that actually uses that model of the superintendents who were present at that meeting. There was quite a large meeting, and we've used that model now for 7 or 8 years. So it's we've been doing great work in that area for a long time. They also participate in pullout. The primary talent pool students participate in pullout groups bi-weekly for higher level thinking skills, vocabulary, problem solving, and reasoning. The 4th and 5th grade that are formally identified and gifted and talented are identified in a workshop format for non-cognitive groups such as leadership, drama, creativity, art. They also have art workshops at Audubon Park, 3 days of art instruction at Audubon with art instructors, and that's done in November with an art expo culminating on, this year was December 7th. Drama students performed our 9th Farm Follies production on the evening of February 20th at the Henderson Fine Arts Center, and that's done in collaboration with Farm Bureau. We also, our elementary students are served in a cognitive area, into general intellectual and specific academic. They receive differentiated learning experiences in their gifted strand classroom, but they also receive enrichment instruction from the GT specialist in a small group pull-out setting in their schools. That's on a weekly basis. GT teachers recognized 4th and 5th grade students qualifying for the Duke Talent Identification Program, the Duke, that's otherwise known as the Duke TIP program, based on their ACT scores that they take as a very young student. The Elementary Academic Challenge, or in other words, the academic meets, were very successful this year. We had many elementary teams did very well at the District Governor's Cup meet and then moved on to participate at the regional level. At the middle school level, we use the elective format for non-cognitive GT students. First marking period, they serve students who are identified GT creativity. Second marking period, they work with students, this is on a daily basis as an elective, that are formally identified in gifted drama. Third marking period, they work with students who are leadership identified, and they repeat that again in the fourth marking period because we have so many students at the middle school level who are identified in leadership. Cognitively gifted students at the middle school level are enrolled in advanced and dual, and it's not actually dual credit, advanced credit classes that are above level in math. We serve students that are 1 year advanced in math and 1 and 2 years advanced in math. They can thereby earn some of their high school credits beginning in middle school. We also serve our advanced students, cognitively gifted students in English 1 classes at the middle school level and in computer apps classes. The GT teachers recognized 7th grade GT students qualifying for the Duke Talent Identification Program as well. They do 4 days of pull-out art classes, 2 days are for 6th and 7th, and 2 days are for 8th grade students in GT art. There will be a middle school art expo in the spring to showcase GT art at the middle school level. They help inform our 8th grade gifted visual performing students about the opportunity to audition for the School of Fine Arts at Henderson County High School, as well as offering transition assistance from middle school to high school for GT students. In addition to that, they conduct the district spelling bee for elementary and middle school, which was held on January 12th at South Middle School. At the high school level, the gifted specialist completes all of the high school GSSPs, those are the gifted service learning plans, and communicate with teachers of the gifted students. This person collaborates with new choir and band teachers, collaborates with all the SOFA teachers in the midst of the application and audition process. They collaborate with the theater teacher and the play sponsor. This person also has a SOFA PLT group and meets individually with gifted students to offer academic counseling and to share opportunities for GT students in Henderson County High School. He is currently surveying students about their areas of interest and their availability for any other special programs. He also counsels with them on advanced and AP courses that are available for them at Henderson County High School that are specially connected to their areas of giftedness. He also counsels with them on dual credit opportunities for upperclassmen at Henderson Community College. You'll see also the report that we submitted. This report goes into the Kentucky Department of Education every year at the end of the year. These are statistics, numbers that were related to last year specifically. You can compare our percent of GT population to, that's a comparison of our GT population to the whole district population.
Question, Joe. When we do a summative evaluation of Ms. Morgana, when the board does that, that's a cumulative of several people that are doing it. How many people are involved in the summative evaluation for this?
This summative evaluation, that is done by all 4 of our GT specialists, the collection of the data.
So there's 4 people involved in it, not just one person, not just Nicole.
I think the one person that actually types in the information is Nicole Newland, who is the coordinator.
Okay.
And then you can see it's submitted. It's actually required to be submitted by her, but she gathers that information from the other 3 teachers as well.
Okay, good information. You hate to have the person who's getting the numbers being the same person who runs it, so that's something we've got.
And
Okay.
this data it's pulled, well, the numbers that you're looking at right there it's pulled from Infinite Canvas.
Okay. Any other questions for Joe? Yes, ma'am. Thank you, we appreciate that. Moving on to school safety, Ms. Morgana?
Foundational to school safety is prevention. Henderson County Schools has a comprehensive approach with many layers. Our number one aspect of that is building relationships. It's one of our core values. Genuine relationships are the foundation of everything that we do. Relationships are expected from staff to student and to parents and staff, including our coaching students through conflict resolution, problem solving, expectations, social media etiquette. Parents being involved with their children, being in their business is a type of relationships that we promote. Knowing what is going on their child's phone, who they're chatting with, who their friends are, relationships. We also treasure our relationships with our law, fire, EMT, EMS, our businesses, and our collaborative partner agencies. Thank you to the board members. We have mental health specialists this year that support our guidance counselor in teaching kids who struggle with building relationships with other students and staff members. And they work in small groups with kids every day. Along with prevention, we also have ongoing professional development. And in the handout that was provided in your board packet, you all can see specifically some of those professional development opportunities. We have emergency plans in place. Each school has their own plan. The district has a plan as a whole. We practice our drills. We implement our policies and our procedures. Recently, of course, school safety has been brought more to the forefront, and so we held a community forum because we wanted to allow our community to provide input from what they see as far as school safety as well. That was held on March 1st. We had 60 to 65 people. It was a great meeting. It seemed more like a conversation. We had a panel of folks up here, and after I shared a presentation and answered a few general questions, then anybody in the community could ask any question they wanted to, and it really became more like a conversation. It was good. We appreciated the input that the community gave. Our principals went back and started to talk with our students to receive student input as well on school safety and just fears, and just had those good conversations at the school level. During the community forum, there were 3 questions that I addressed, and one was, why don't our schools have metal detectors? And that it is a question that sometimes I'm asked when I'm in the community. And every solution presents another potential challenge, and it's important that we recognize that a countermeasure sometimes happens in safety procedures. And these are questions that we actually look to the Kentucky Center of School Safety and to our law enforcement for some advice on. And so for the board tonight, I'm not saying that I have an answer, I just have a bunch of questions that go with a conversation, if you all choose, that we need to have going forward when thinking about metal detectors. And here are just some of those questions. So how do we use the metal detectors? Do they go in all the entrances? What if the intruder approaches the with a weapon drawn? Then how effective are the detectors? Will the metal detector keep the intruder out? Will a person who willfully wants to hurt somebody be stopped by a metal detector? Do we want our students standing in large masses waiting to pass through a metal detector at the same time each day? Do we utilize them during the school day and not during school events? If our kids go back to the stadium, then do they need to go back through a metal detector? Does this increase or decrease the likelihood of our buses being put in jeopardy? Do we have the resources to properly monitor metal detector entrances? Will it create a false sense of security for our students and staff? And so those are just all questions that if the board would continue to like to have that kind of conversation, that we would need to probably start to try to answer what would be in the best interest. Another question that I talked about that night before community folks came forward was, would you support arming teachers? I would only support individuals with firearms if they receive the same amount of training as our law enforcement. Responding in a crisis is much different than qualifying a person to carry a concealed weapon permit.
And anyone carrying a weapon in our school needs to be someone who can handle it with confidence and during a very heightened, alert, and crisis situation. Law enforcement and military have that extensive training. They are physically, and really more importantly, physiologically and emotionally trained to be able to do those things. So that I would encourage our board to proceed with caution on that kind of topic. Lastly, the third question I often get asked is, what can we do to help? Our community genuinely was very respectful the night of the community forum, complimentary, but there was genuine fear. And we expressed to them as school staff, we understand that. We feel that responsibility. And so what could they do to help? And again, we looked at different resources and our law enforcement to answer those questions. And the Kentucky Center School Safety tells us that there are 3 things that predominantly have to be very strong, and that's building strong relationships. That's the number 1 thing. Providing SROs in your school for 2 reasons. Now, I understand that the SRO might be in a part of a building where an intruder might not be, but the SRO helps build those foundational relationships. And the second piece that the SRO brings is that they still are employed by our local law enforcement, and so they have knowledge that we don't have as school staff of things that are going on in different parts of the community. So they have that community base, neighborhood, what's going on, along with building the relationships with the kids, with the connections. So that was number 2. And the third thing that the Kentucky Center School Safety says is very important is parents and guardians being in their kids' business, knowing what is on their phone, what they are chatting about, who their friends are. One of the biggest challenges that they've offered in the last month is parents and guardians, just take that cell phone and charge it every night in your bedroom. Don't let the kids have access to it after 10 o'clock or whatever the particular time is. So those 3 things are that we're really, principals have been talking with their students about. They've been talking with their staff about building the relationships, talking to kids, allowing kids to talk to us. So after the community forum, as we worked, I felt like that I also wanted to share tonight what are some immediate things that we've really had some good discussions and things that we have done and implemented moving forward. I've asked the principals, and they've all confirmed that they've all completed several of these tasks, and that is giving students and staff permissions. Permissions if we're in an emergency situation, regardless if it's a human tragedy or a weather-related crisis going on, that they have permissions to run or hide in places in the school that traditionally would be way off limits for them. So for example, if they're in the cafeteria and they need to exit the building, kids and staff, hey, you have permission to run to the kitchen to get out. But some people wouldn't do that because that's not what they're supposed to do, kind of thing. So that was one of the great conversations and the principals have had with their kids and staff. If you're in the gym, if you're in the cafeteria, if you're in common areas, just giving kids permissions. They've also had conversations with the student and staff as they're practicing drills during unusual times. Traditionally, we practice drills when everybody's in their classroom. But what are we going to do if we're all in the gym at 7:30? What do we need to do, and where do we exit the building, and how do we do that? Secondary schools also conducted conversations with the students, having law enforcement with them, talking about the legality of felony charges for rumors or threats that were unintentionally or intentionally put forward. We already have started to look at how can we secure an SRO for North Middle School and South Middle School, whether that's one SRO for next school year, splitting their time, or if we're able to afford 2. We'll continue to look at that. We've double-checked that all of our schools have the handheld metal detectors and that they were operational, and that principals and guidance counselors and the elementary leadership folks understood how to use those properly. We have implemented that all classroom doors are locked inside the building, and all of our exterior doors have already been locked, but even at the elementary level, that all classroom doors doors are locked. We have sat down together, Chris Gordon, Brian Bailey, Megan Morris, and I, and we've created 3 digital parenting sessions to communicate out to parents. Just some tips and ideas of how to parent digitally. That's not something I would assume probably you guys sitting up here with as parents that you had to even deal with or think about. What's this got some young ones right now? We're a little different generation there. So for the next 3 weeks, we tried to send one out, or we did send one out to parents last week. We have another one this week, and a third one will go out next week before spring break. We've held meetings with our law enforcement for advice and feedback. We've held, Mr. Steiner had a meeting with our fire inspector, the fire chief, to see what guidelines, guidance we can and can't do as far as putting an extra lock on the inside or outside of a classroom door. Can we deviate from the traditional fire drill procedure types of things? And so we don't have a complete conclusion on that conversation because he had to get some guidance from the State Department. And again, those were recommendations from the Kentucky Center of School Safety. We've had numerous conference calls with the Kentucky Center of School Safety. The director takes your calls, talks with you. We even ask the principals, what more do you think you need? And right now they think their biggest need is just practicing those situational types of drills where you're not in your traditional classrooms and then you practice a tornado drill or you practice a intruder drill, that you're in different places in the school when those things happen. So those are immediate things we've talked about, and we've listed also changing the number system on the outside of our building, assessing the radios that we do have for emergency, looking to see can we put panic buttons in, and how does that talk with our current telephone system. So we're going to continue to pursue that. We also are going to recreate a safe school team in Henderson. Probably 15 years ago, we had a safe school team that included mental health, it included psychologists, law enforcement, principal, central office person, and you just have those ongoing quarterly meetings to talk about.
That's the group that Sheriff Brady talked about. That's the group that a lot of the things that are in place now were because of that group 15 years ago and his actions.
Certainly was. And then there's as you saw in your board packet, there's many other things. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you all might have. I do want the board to know that school safety is, yes, I understand that academics are important, and I feel that, but as you all know and agree that school safety is really the most important thing, and our principals have been phenomenal in having those conversations very quickly with the staff at their schools during this time.
But you still have several things that you all are investigating and getting more research on and possibly will implement in the coming days. Is that correct? Okay.
I think that's ongoing as the Kentucky Center of School Safety rolls out new initiatives, new policies, new practices as our world just changes around us. Yes.
Board members, any other questions or comments?
I'll just say I really appreciate seeing all of that in one place. And as board members and as a former Henderson County employee in the schools, I knew and I was aware that a lot of that was going on. And unfortunately, one of the things that's happened since a lot of these tragedies is it's a good thing. We've had communication with our community about the things that we've been doing as an ongoing practice. So I feel like we're on the right track and certainly always have more to do. And I really want to thank Ms. Gibson and Ms. McLean for bringing the survey or the petition to us. And thank you to all the people that signed it, because that says everyone in the community is really interested and involved and trying to think of solutions. You know, we've all heard it takes a village, you know, to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to keep a child safe. And if you see something, say something, be in their business, Those are short things you can say to your neighbor as a potential thing that will help. The only other thing I would say is in '98, I went to McCracken County to work, and that was about 6 months after the Heath High School shooting. So a lot of the things that we were putting in place in McCracken County, all schools in Kentucky have now. One of the things that was the most helpful in my little elementary school was to do tabletop exercises at staff meetings. Our SRO helped develop some of those things, and we would give them out to tables at the staff meeting. How would you handle this? And so it was kind of a way to think through some of those different scenarios you mentioned, 7:30 in the morning, 3:25, right after the bell rings, fire drill. How would you handle those things? So that might be one suggestion that you might take back to the principals and work with the SROs to work on. And the only other thing I will say, about, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years ago, I never would have thought I would have even considered the idea of metal detectors, but it is a different world. And we have to consider every solution to a very complex problem. You will never stop worrying about your children, ever. My son is 32. He lives in Austin. And recently there have been about, I think, 3 or 4 bombings. And I called him the other day and I said, unless it says Mom, Henderson, Kentucky, walk around it. Don't touch it. So at 32 years old, we're still worried as parents. And so that never stops. But thank you all so much for coming and having that communication as they had the other night with our board and with our administrators, because we all have to work together to solve this.
Very much, Dr. Sutton. Wes, any comments? Mr. Mike?
Well,
Ms. Tracy? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Margana, for bringing all that to us. We've heard some of those pieces when the community came and you gave that, but there are some of those things that you have implemented since that time, and that's only been less than a few weeks, less than 20 days. So you all got quite a few things accomplished and done and spoken to our children and spoken to our staff since that time. So when our community did ask questions, these people jumped up and did what you asked them. And I will tell you that the Superintendent Love of Marshall County, who has been involved since the shooting with the Homeland Security and has also met with the President and his staff regarding this. And he is concerned too with metal detectors, and he said they are, like us, are investigating a lot of different things that they can do. He said what he doesn't want to do is give anyone a false sense of security, thinking that a machine will keep out danger from our schools. It does need to be several things. So he said he doesn't want it to be ineffective measures. He wants it to be appearance of action, but to make sure that we do it right. So that's a gentleman who has lived and breathed this in the past 6 weeks, and almost got to take some counsel from what he's doing. He's been through a lot worse than we have. So thank you, ma'am. Any action that we need to take? Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate that. Okay, moving on to, there is no old business. We're moving on to new business. Changes to Pottsville's attendance zone. Also, Ms. Margana.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you have some information in your board packet, and I bring to you tonight a proposal. And it's based on changes in the elementary enrollment numbers over the past 10, 15, we probably could say 20 years. In some schools, it's caused overpopulation and I'm speaking just about our elementary schools this evening. District personnel have been examining current school boundary lines in anticipation for our 18-19 school year. I'm asking tonight that you consider a recommendation to move the school boundary from Pottsville Elementary west on Highway 60 past Saddlebrook to the Pebble Creek Drive, which would include the apartment complex of Greenleaf, Pebble Creek, and Thornbrook Place, and also to include the north side and south side of Wathen Lane, which would include
include Braxton Park. And in addition to this request, I would include the current area, which belongs to East Heights, to change that boundary line from the Green River north, traveling on Highway 351, Zion Road, all the way to mile marker number 5 on Zion Road. There are some maps that are included in your board packet to review. We would allow a student to remain in his current school, either East Heights or Bengate, if the student would be in grade 5 for next year. And also if the student had a sibling to the student that's in grade 5, they could remain in their current school for just the 18-19 school year, provided that the parents provide transportation. We came to this consideration to share with you tonight, looking at high-quality learning environment, equitable opportunities for students, allowing space and some movement to the elementary schools of Bengate and East Heights, looking at trying to continue with a diverse balance of students in all schools. Free and reduced lunch counts would not change. They stay practically the same within 1 percentage point of each other. We'd like to be able to accommodate current and future student growth in all of our schools. And it would establish an efficient bus transportation system in order to maximize student transportation. We currently have a couple of families that live all the way down to the Green River, and they are transported now almost 55 minutes to East Heights. Their transportation, we estimate, will be between 35 and 40 minutes, taking them to Pottsville Elementary. So we're also taking bus routes into consideration as well. If you all chose to approve this recommendation this evening, we would send letters out tomorrow to the families. We've identified all of the families that would be involved, whether they are a middle school student that would change from from south to north, or if they are elementary students. And then we would hold an elementary meeting, the administration and principals for those schools, on Thursday, March 29th from 5:30 to 6:30 here at the PD Center, where those families that were affected could come and look at the boundary lines, look at their bus routes, meet Ms. Estabrook from Pottsville Elementary School, and see whatever questions that we could answer for those families to help try and take care of those needs. At this point, one of the things that's super important to communicate out in asking some changes for attendance zone areas, that only 3 schools that are affected are Bengate, Pottsville, and East Heights. So if there was a child in any other school, they would not be affected by this request this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions any board member might have.
Questions, board members? So we do need a motion to, this will alleviate some of the overcrowding that we were experiencing at Bengate, correct?
It will. It certainly will.
And had some crowded situations and had to move kids to other facilities.
Yes, and it also will at East Heights tremendously. To provide educational learning for students in 2018 looks very different than even 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. We have lots of support staff, we have interventionists, we have science labs, we have computer labs. Our elementary schools, some have space for a music room, some do not at this point, and the music teacher travels with the cart from classroom to classroom. So our goal over a period of time is to balance our schools out to be able to provide maximum learning for our students, and not trying to have to, we do in East Heights. We have some of our interventionists in little nooks and crannies that might be former book rooms or maybe a custodial closet, or they put them wherever it takes to be able to deliver those services. And we just need to look at the big picture and do some shifting. And right now, for just next year, we're looking at 3 schools: East Heights, Bengate, and Pottsville.
Okay, hearing no questions or changes to any of that, I'll look for a motion to approve the changes to the Pottsville attendance
Motion to
zone.
accept
Thank
the
you.
recommendation of the superintendent presented, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Do I hear a second? I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Please let the families know. Give them our full support. We appreciate that. Moving on to the first reading of policy 09.436, search and seizure. Mr. Steve?
Yes, ma'am. We have in front of you, and I think you've all had a chance to read over that, just a policy that's been revised and suggested and reviewed by KSBA as well as Ms. Bird to kind of bring us to a better spot on our search and seizure. So that's the information we'd like to approve as a first reading tonight.
Any questions regarding the changes to that policy? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the changes to first reading of policy 09.436.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Dr. Zoe. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to calendar adjustment. Also, Mr. Steve.
Yes, ma'am. We would, once again, we have something in front of you there to consider on the last day of school dismissal times for May the 18th as it stands right now. 11 o'clock for our elementary and 12 o'clock for secondary as dismissal times that will be in compliance date-wise and time-wise with all standards that we need to take care of.
That's making up our snow day from last Monday, is that correct? Okay.
I have to make that motion because that's like the best thing I've ever.
You know, them youngsters are gonna be really concerned about going another day of school. Now they're gonna know it's only a half day. They'll be tickled to death, everything will be fine. So let's get that going right now.
So Tracy's making a motion and Mike's seconding it. Is that the one I'm hearing now in this corner? Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Yeah, we have to say aye. Amen's not good. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda, which is approved student overnight trip request, approve application for emergency certificates for substitute teaching, approve technology surplus, approve bid recommendations, approve grant applications, and approve our Frisky assurance certification for fiscal year 19 and 20. Any changes, anything that needs to be pulled? Questions? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Ernie? This is where you get stuck in.
You want to stand at the podium or come on here?
Ernie is going to talk about the guaranteed energy savings contracts.
First, I want to apologize. First, I want to apologize for my mix-up, my schedule. You all having to rearrange the agenda. Thank you for accommodating me. I guess I want to do two things while I'm up here. I want to talk about the BG2s that had to be approved. I also want to give you a quick update on the project. Since I appeared in front of the board, I guess last month, Katie approved the project. We executed a contract last week, and we had a successful bond sale. So the next steps are that we want to meet with Billy here this week or next week to confirm the project scope, make sure we're all on the same page before we get started. And especially the high school where most of the work is going to be occurring. Then we're going to have a kickoff meeting to talk about the construction side of things with our project manager, our engineering team. To meet with your principals, administration, facility staff, and so forth. So that's going to occur probably the next 2 weeks or so. So the other thing I do want to talk about is BG2. We, as I said, the state approved the project, but there's some paperwork they're still requiring us to get through their process. And we did a BG2 for the high school, but they wanted a BG2 for the other schools, which is South Heights, Ben Gate, South Middle School, and North Middle School. So just ask that the board approves or considers approving the BG2, and we'll submit those to the state and see
Anyone have any questions for Ernie regarding the VG for those four schools? No? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the VG2 for VG 18-133, guaranteed savings contract for Bengate Elementary, North Middle School, South Middle School, and South Heights Elementary. Do I hear a motion to that
I'll
effect?
make that motion, Madam Chair, we approve these VG2 forms for those schools.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So you drove all the way down here for 5 minutes?
No, well, just want to say thank you for choosing us in this partnership, and we really look forward to working with you guys in the next several months and the coming years for the energy guarantee.
We're looking forward to it too. Thank you. We appreciate all the work that y'all have done and working with the state to get all the details done. So yes, thank you very much, Ernie. Okay, moving on to the financials, treasurer's report. Ms. Cindy, what's your?
Okay, the treasurer's report for the month of February includes total receipts of $4,962,193 and total expenses of $5,316,177 for a net decrease in all funds of $353,984.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I respectfully request your approval of the treasurer's report as given to us tonight by Cindy Cloutier.
Look for a motion to approve the treasurer's report as listed. Thank you, Mr. Mike. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We were pretty good down here, aren't we?
I'm telling you.
Like a dance.
It's hard not to say. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to paid warrant report. Also, Ms. Cindy.
Paid warrant report covers the period of February the 20th through March the 19th. It includes total paid warrants of $2,728,280.70. Questions on those paid warrants?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I respectfully request your approval of the paid warrant report as given to us tonight by Cindy Cloutier.
Look for a motion to approve the paid warrant report as listed.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mike. Do I hear a second? This Wes got it. Whew. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Also be it noted that we have received personnel actions, a list of those. And Mike, are you ready for this?
I am, I'll make a motion to adjourn, but I need to tell Ms. Sugg, Dr. Sugg, you need to work on your partner down there. We're working good down there, and I noticed you come, just, you need to work on your partner.
But I'm telling you, Tracy and Dr. Sugg have got it in concert because they were saying it both ears. So,
Oh, here we go now. But I've got a motion on the floor, we adjourn.
and Tracy seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all.